Hey everybody, it's Charlie from DM Moto, and while adventure motorcycles claim to provide this lifestyle of exploring trail and going on big multi-day rides, realistically, they also make for great daily riders. You sit up tall, you see around traffic, you can absorb pothole bumps, and they're just plain comfortable and easy to ride. And that is what Honda is really aiming for with the NX500. This very well might be the easiest and best daily commuter style motorcycle for under $8,000. After destination, but before tax, title, and fees, that's right about what you're looking at for this 2025 model. Honda is essentially taking its 500cc, slightly less technically, parallel twin 180-degree motor and putting it in just about every sort of motorcycle that they can fathom. And I honestly don't blame them for it. It's a straightforward and predictable power plant. It's easy to ride. They've got the build and the development and the transmission. So why not give us as many flavors as possible? You've got the Rebel, you've got the SC, you've got the CBR, you've got the CB, and now this adventure style, the NX. Now with cast wheels and fixed front suspension, you're not going to exactly be going and running the Dakar with this bike, but I wager it will make for a great little commuter. So that's what we're testing out today. If you do want to see more on the motorcycle, stay tuned for our full review. I will be taking it out on some dirt roads and maybe a little bit of trail, talking about more of the bike holistically. But in today's context, it's what sort of fuel economy does it get and what is it like riding in the real world in sane conditions as one might on their way to class or work. So we're going to spend about 43 miles on the road in mixed riding, city speeds, 55-mile-an-hour roads, and highway. We're going to fill it up here at the gas station, go out and do that test and come back and fill up at the same pump and see what sort of fuel economy we actually register. And I'm going to give you my honest thoughts on riding the bike. Pretty straightforward set of instrumentation and seating configuration here. But let me take this quick moment to shout out the video sponsor, Arai. I am wearing the Arai Contour X in this very cool bright color scheme. This is what I wanted to help people see me, especially on a pretty basic black and white bike like this. I also have my Helite leather jacket on, so not exactly super visible from that regard. So I like having a helmet that people see me in. Been pretty happy with the Arai Contour X so far. Not just me, but a lot of other motorcycle content creators choose this helmet as well. So if you need yourself a helmet, spend a little, get something great, go with the Arai Contour X. Check the link below. So let's bring it on over to the pump here. If you're commuting on something like the NX, you only have to put in 87 octane, so definitely going to save you a little bit of money at the pump there. This is a very under-stressed engine. I imagine it's a pretty decent-sized fuel tank, too. I'll have to have that data here before we crunch our final numbers, but I'm just going to assume it's decently large. I'm also going to assume we're going to get pretty darn good fuel economy with this bike because this is a pretty, like I said, under-stressed engine. And it's not a super lightweight bike, though, so I don't know. I'm suspecting something in the mid to high 50s. There we are, all topped off. And we get the same gauge cluster here as you get in the more expensive Honda bikes like the CB1000 Hornet. Now, on those bikes, it's a little simple, but on this one, it's actually pretty cool. So let's go here, reset our trip. We'll reset trip A. Now we'll reset trip B. And we are ready to begin. Now, a few things to note for the test. Tire pressures have been set to their placard 29 psi front and 36 psi rear. Outside temperature today about 70 degrees Fahrenheit. Not too surprising that we don't have an ambient temp readout on the motorcycle. We don't have any sort of ride modes on the NX500. I'm not surprised or disappointed by that. It simply is. In fact, I'd almost be a little disappointed if we did have ride modes, because that would show that Honda was putting too much effort into the wrong aspects of developing this bike. And I'm going to be riding within about 5 miles per hour of the posted speed limits. I want to have this kind of representative of if you were just taking a nice leisurely ride into the office in the morning. It's 9:10 technically right now, not 8:10. In fact, I don't even think that clock's right at all. Let me see. Yeah, okay, it's an hour behind. While we're at this light, we can see how tough it is to change the clock. If I were the clock, That would probably be down here in settings. General, date and time. That was easy. Wow. While we're in here, we can also change the display background. Change that to black. I think that looks better. We've got a slipper and assist clutch here on the NX500. Makes it so light and easy to flip the, wow, what is this noise I'm hearing? I'm getting a terrible buffeting from the windshield. Oh man. That's the problem with some of these windshields like this, is they actually end up being so much louder than if you just didn't have a windshield at all. If I get down here, it's almost silent. If I get up here, it's windy but calm. But right here, I've got this terrible buffeting sound. Oh man, I don't want to have to listen to that this whole time. I wonder if I brought any earplugs. I don't think I have any in this jacket. Gosh darn it. But anyway, you've got a slipper and assist clutch on the bike here, making it very easy to pull the clutch, to change gears. I don't know if it's quite as easy as the transmission and powertrain setup on the Kawasaki 500s, but it's definitely right up there. No adjustability to the clutch lever, however the brake lever does have adjustability, so that's kind of cool. Beautiful morning out here on PCH. Got a little bit of sun actually poking in out from above the water. Still cloudy out on land. Usually not that way. On this chillier morning, it's a good observation of the cowling design here on the NX. There's a air deflection around my knees. So if I stick my knees out, I can feel a ton of wind, but if I keep them tucked in here close to the seat, I'm actually barely feeling any wind on them. Kind of a cool design. Now, that further demonstrates that Honda is intending this bike to be used more on-road than off, because if you put this thing down in the dirt, I guarantee, nearly guarantee, that those plastic panels are getting scraped up, if not ripped off. But on the street, it makes for great wind deflection, probably helping with the aero as well. The seat is also wider than you'd get on maybe something more designed for being off-road. Very comfortable so far though. Coming in just a little bit before halfway through our ride, I suppose. And it's got a nice width to it. So very good for booty support. Coming into Laguna Beach, always a good opportunity to talk about exhaust. No, obviously a very quiet little bike, but Honda and Kawasaki and sort of these entry-level bikes, or lighter weight bikes, I should say, they've done a pretty good job at making them gutsy sounding, especially in the lower revs. This one doesn't really sound that great once you get up into the higher revs, but lower RPMs, it's got a fun little grunt to it. Every now and again on decel, you can get just the slightest little bit of burble and over rev too. It's kind of fun for a bike like this. But of course, very subtle, very muted, nothing that's going to offend your neighbors. And you do want to keep the revs up a little bit when you're in more of these city type situations, because it's a bit of a heavier bike for this mill, and you want to get up into the rev range some to just have that power to squirt around traffic if you need to. But the handlebars are not very wide, especially for more of an adventure bike kind of design. So lane filtering, if you're in an area where you can do so, fairly easy to do. I think we'll have some demos of that here shortly. But again, that height of an ADV bike, allowing me to see the roof of that Lexus UX, allowing me to see pedestrians around up there, get a good view of everything that's going on. Also helps people see me as my bright yellow Arai helmet buzzes around them. Look at all this space in front of this car. What are you doing, bro? It's almost 2 car lengths. Starting off in second gear right there, no problem. I like doing that sometimes when you're on more of a downhill here. It's just easier to get the bike out and away. And these bumpier sections, great with that 5.6 inches of suspension travel. Also having that little bit of torquiness out of an engine like this, getting the twin cylinder, just helps you for navigating these slower speed sections where you're kind of feathering the clutch. Third Street hill test. Ooh, some jackhammer action there. Yeah, just not much gut there to really pull if you're pretty much below 4,000 or 5,000 RPM. You've got to be in the power band for this bike. Bike's actually maybe a little bit louder than I would expect for this style of machine and this type of engine. It doesn't really have to sound this loud. Spirited riding section here. We're going to let this RAV4 get some distance on us. Again, no sort of ride mode, so we'll simply let it loose. And we have a Prius as well. A RAV4 and a Prius. I think we're going to want those to be well in front of us. Oh, it's a Prius V nonetheless. And here we go. Feel the softness of the suspension a little bit once you start really pushing the bike. Kind of floats around. Full throttle up into the top bits of the rev range. We are still accelerating. Seeing a little bit of moisture, so I'm going to take it a bit easy coming through the corner here. It'll be interesting to see what type of twist we have when we come out at this rev. Yeah, right there, full. Okay, so we're still pulling. I'm about 170 pounds, 5'10". So heavier riders, you're going to start pushing the limits more of the suspension and the powertrain, but certainly enough. Oh, and there is Mr. Officer of the Law. Ooh, e-bike bust. Not me, officer. I follow the law by riding a motorcycle. Wrapping up the slower speed, kind of more city riding section here on the NX. It's a good bike for it. Between the seating position, the clutch action. Like I said, the only thing you really got to consider is having enough rev to be able to get around traffic when you need. Kind of just be in the power band, because if you catch yourself too low, if you're used to a little bit more of a torquey bike, then you might find yourself flat-footed. But all things considered, it's good. Happy with it here. I think the suspension is really tuned well for slower speed, urban sort of riding. It's just the right amount of firm but cushioned to take road imperfections and this kind of just nice, easy, calm sort of riding. But getting to a little bit more of the suburban style streets here and then onto the highway. Let's see how we do with this smaller powertrain coming up this hill. Yeah, it's just enough power to have fun. That's how I would describe the 500cc mill here from Honda. It's just enough. It's not as thrilling up in the high ends as the Cowie. So I think if I were getting more of a Ninja or a Z style bike, or in the case of the Honda, the CBR or the CB, the naked or the sport bike would be the way to say it, I would go with the Kawasaki. Now obviously this is going to be a lot more powerful than the Versys 300. There are rumors that Kawasaki will be putting their 500 class mill in that bike as well, and that's something that they desperately need to do. Looking forward to that. But even then, I could see the argument for still picking Honda, Team Red, over Kawasaki with that style bike, because I don't love that 500 motor in the calmer sort of bikes, like the Eliminator, for example. That's cool. That looks original. I like Honda's gruntiness a little bit more in a bike like this or a bike like a cruiser. So for higher revs, take the Kawasaki. For lower revs, take the Honda. Up here about 55 miles per hour. No buzziness. Still dealing with that wind situation. Not really many bells and whistles to speak of on the NX500. You do see where you could put a little 12 volt or maybe a USB port, but nothing in there as the bike comes standard. Little red light blast here. Yeah, I mean, it's fun. It is. It's pretty much any motorcycle is fun, but this one has just enough power to kind of get that front wheel to lift a little bit. Honda's really spoiling you a choice if you want some sort of adventure-y motorcycle. They're kind of like Toyota with their off-road vehicles in the four-wheeled space. You've got the, well, you can start all the way at the bottom, really. You got the XR. No, you can go even lower than that. Let's go all the way down in displacement. Let's do a little exercise, shall we? You've got the Trail 125. Then you've got the 80, I guess next would be the XR 150L. And then you've got the ADV 160. And then you've got the, I guess they don't really have a, like a 230 sort of entry. You get all the way up into the CRF 300 and 300L. And then, sorry, it is the 300L. The CRF 300L and 300LS. And the 300L Rally. And then you have the NX500. And then you have my favorite, the Transalp 750. We're going to talk about that a little bit at the end, because I think that is a little bit of a spoiler for the NX500. And then you have the Africa Twin up at the top. So you really have many different ways to spend your money on bikes that can kind of go off-road when you're dealing with Honda. And we're going to see once we get out on the highway, but I'm thinking the NX500 makes a lot of sense for someone who doesn't ride big miles, but rides regularly, if that makes sense. So a lot of city riding, a lot of littler trips, but you're not exactly putting on big adventures. Because at that point, it just seems worth it to me to step all the way up to the Transalp in terms of the power. How do we want to negotiate this? It's a little narrow because this Tesla is sitting over on the right side of the lane. Again, so easy to walk. Fairly low seat height here. I can easily flat foot it as a 5'10" person. Even with the wide seat, I can still get my feet down. But the Transalp's going to have that extra pull in order to take you and people and gear more confidently and more excitingly. This bike is really only exciting when you get just the right revs and you're full throttle. But the Transalp is fun all the time. It's got such a grunty, powerful engine. I love that motor. The NX will do just about everything the Transalp will do, just with less fun. But if you're somebody who rides more tamely and you get more joy from riding out of just being out on two wheels and looking around and just simply motoring rather than accelerating hard and going fast and kind of hearing that engine note, then the NX makes a lot of sense. Here's sort of a tighter lane filtering situation. You have to be careful with the mirrors, but yeah, very easy to negotiate there. Now, I strongly suspect that you all are going to have difficulty hearing me when I'm up on the highway because of this windshield. So I'm going to keep most of my highway thoughts for the end of the highway run, kind of summarize everything with you. Well, if you can hear me, wind protection is appreciated up here at highway speeds. I'm not getting pushed around and blown into my chest the way I would on more of a naked bike. It's still very easy to sit upright. Around 70 miles per hour, we're looking just about 6,000 RPM. And at these speeds, you do start to feel that little twin cylinder vibrating into the handlebars. It's not bad. It's not something that's going to make your hands itch, but it's something that I wouldn't want to put up with for a long period of time. All things considered, pretty happy with this bike on the highway. I'd have no problem doing some sort of commuter highway riding with it. Again, wouldn't want to do anything cross-country. I mean, I guess unless I got a different windshield or I just had some earplugs in the whole time, I guess. And by all means, there's no problem with doing highway running on the NX, even longer distance. It's just if I were in the new market for a bike, I wouldn't pick this if that was my main intention of riding, if that makes sense. But our fuel economy really didn't suffer on the highway. We only dropped down to about 58.5, 58.6 maybe. And then we're right back up to about 59 MPG according to the bike's readout. So we're gonna get it back to the pump here and fill it all up, crunch our numbers, get some final thoughts as the NX500 as a little commuter bike. Here we are, all topped off, and we only ended up putting in 0.716 gallons back into the tank of the NX. We traveled 42.9 miles on GPS, divided by that 0.716. Okay, look at that. That's remarkably accurate to the bike, just a mile per gallon over. 60 miles per gallon here on the Honda NX500. That is a really great figure for a bike in this class and with this sort of power. And I bet you a big part of that is the aerodynamics. I don't think something like the CB500 or the SCL500 would do as well as that, because that is a really good figure. So if you plan on using this bike daily, you are going to have the power to have fun and take yourself and others and stuff around. You're going to have the fuel savings to save at the pump, and only having to put in 87 octane. That's going to help you as well, and you'll be comfortable and look kind of cool all at the same time. We've got a healthy 4.7 gallon fuel tank on here, so 4.7 gallons times 60 miles per gallon is giving you, optimistically, this is obviously best case using all the way brimmed tank to empty, but 280 miles on a tank, mixed riding here on the Honda NX500. That is fantastic. Because again, if you're gonna use this as a daily rider, that means you're probably not gonna have to get fuel for weeks. You can just kind of top up from time to time and keep on chugging. So that is pretty darn cool. As a daily rider, it's really hard to argue with the bike. The only element going against it, as I said a little bit throughout the ride, it's just not that exciting. Maybe you could do a little bit with the exhaust to liven it up. Maybe you could tune it or something. But just knowing that the Transalp exists, or now the CB750 Hornet, that is just so much more fun for, yes, I know it's a good bit more money from a percentage standpoint, but if you could just save up a little bit longer or finance just a little bit more, you're just getting so much more fun on two wheels. But it's really hard to argue with the price and the competency of something like this NX500. So if you're somebody who's like, well, you know, I kind of like the idea of the CRF 300L Rally, but I don't know how much I'm really going to go off-road, here you go. Just get yourself the NX500, have a little bit more power and more comfort, more capability, and just be done with it. Have a good time. So thank you all so much for watching. If you do want to see more on the bike, stay tuned for our full ride review, or if it's all already up, it'll be found below. And we'll see you on the next one. I'm Charlie from DM Moto, and as always, ride on.